Hey y'all, let's make dinner for that man and them kids. I asked what they wanted. They said baked chicken, collard greens, macaroni and cheese, candy yams, a little steak and rice with some cornbread on the side, so we're gonna make it happen. First things first, we're gonna get started with our sweet potatoes. I like to boil mine until they get fork tender because my wrists are not made of steel and I ain't got time to sit up there cutting up 531,600 raw sweet potatoes, baby. It hurts. We're gonna get those on the stove and then get started with our collard greens. Tell me why I DoorDash the collard greens, y'all. I asked for 3 bunches and this is what they sent me. This is barely enough to make a lettuce wrap. Food line, I don't know what y'all got going on, but who do y'all think I am? Give me the rest of my collard greens. Anyway, baby, we got to use what we got to get what we want. So what I like to do is go ahead and wash them greens up. Once I get them good and washed, I cut the stems out the middle and then I tuck it, roll it, fold it, baby, and then slice it into little ribbons. Once we get our collard greens cut up, we're going to put them in some water, let them soak for a little while, and then wash them again. While that's doing what it do, we're going to add some smoked turkey necks to a pot, baby, a little chicken bouillon seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper. Slice up some onions and bell peppers if you fancy like that. Add a little garlic in there. And we're going to put that on the stove so it can boil while our sweet potatoes boiling. You want that meat to get a little tender before you add it to your greens. While that's doing what it do, we're going to take our freshly washed greens, add some chicken broth in there, baby. Throw you some onions and garlic in there. Hit it with some paprika, garlic powder, onion powder. We're going to hit it with some salt-free Tony's chicken bouillon seasoning. Make sure you add you some sugar and a splash of vinegar. You're going to let that go ahead and get going, baby, and once your meat been cooking for about 30 minutes, add it in the pot with the rest of your greens. Let it simmer on a low heat with a lid on it. And next up, we got our chicken wings, and baby, y'all already know how I do. I cut all them toenails off of there. We're going to hit it with some lemon juice, some vinegar, and we're going to let that soak for about 5-10 minutes. While that's doing what it do, we're going to get started on our stew beef. I was going to make like a stew beef and rice with potatoes and carrots, but baby, I was out of carrots. So instead, we're just going to add some peppers and onions in here. I like to wash my meat, so we're going to wash it and pat it dry, baby. Once we got it dry, we're going to add some garlic and onion powder, a little black pepper. Make sure you add some Worcestershire sauce in there. Put you some all-purpose seasoning, baby, and then you're going to give it a real good mix. Once you got it stirred up, we're going to go ahead and add us some peppers, some onions, some garlic. I use red and green peppers. If you're not a fan of peppers, you can also put the carrots in there, baby. Put the potatoes in there. It really don't matter. Add you some mushrooms. Do it the way you like to do it. Once we have all our ingredients in the bowl, baby, we're going to add 1 can of cream of chicken and 1 can of cream of mushroom. Give it a good mix, and then you're going to add 1 packet of the Lipton onion, beefy onion soup mix. It got to be the beefy kind, friend. Get the beefy kind. We're going to give it a good stir and then whip out our Instant Pot. Now, friend, you can also put this in a crock pot, but you know the Instant Pot just makes it faster. The last time I made this, I didn't add water. This time I added 2 cups of water, and it did stop it from sticking in my Instant Pot. But I set it to stew, baby, and they let it cook for about 60 minutes, and it was good and ready to go. By this time, our sweet potatoes been done, baby, so we're going to take them out that water, let them cool off, and then we're going to get our chicken, rinse it with some cold water, pat it dry, and season it up real good. We're going to add a little avocado oil so our seasonings can stick, baby. And then once you got your chicken seasoned like this, you're going to go ahead and add it to a baking dish. I used 2 packs of family wings, so I ended up having to use 2 baking dishes. And then I got frustrated with that $1.25 street store foil, baby. I couldn't find the beginning nor the end. I finally ended up finding another roll, and we had to triple fold that because it's thin as paper. It got me so stressed out, I forgot to put the butter on top. Add some butter on top of that chicken, baby. Then you're going to wrap it nice and tight. We're going to put it in the oven on 375 for about an hour and 15 minutes covered. By this time, our sweet potatoes should be cool enough to peel, so we're going to go ahead and take the skin off, baby. It should slide right off. We're going to slice and dice our potatoes up into pieces, and I do my sweet potatoes different every time. Sometimes I make a glaze, sometimes I don't. This time, we're simply going to add brown sugar, white sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, add you a pinch of salt, a splash of lemon juice, baby. Put you some butter on top. Make sure you add you some vanilla in there, and I also like to add a little honey. Go ahead and cover it with some of that $1.25 street store foil and stick it in the oven for about 30 minutes on 350 to 400. Go ahead and get them elbow macaroni noodles, throw them in that water, let them boil till they al dente, and then you're going to take your chicken that's been cooking, baby, and take the broth off of it and pour it in a separate bowl. We're going to add that broth to a pot, and then we're going to get us a can of cream of chicken soup and a cup of water, and you're just going to mix it up until it make like a gravy. Take that gravy, pour it right on top of your chicken, baby, and you're going to stick it back in the oven for 15 minutes uncovered. I have one of those cheese graters where you just turn the handle, but baby, I don't feel like turning no handle. But we're going to be fancy today and slice our cheese up instead of using a pre-bagged cheese. And what I'm going to tell y'all is never again. My arms were on fire. Anyway, there are several macaroni and cheese recipes on my page, y'all, but the way we do it is we just make a roux. Add you some butter, add some flour, a little seasoning, and then you put your milk in there. If you don't have milk, you can use half and half, heavy whipping cream. Do it the way you like to do it. We add our cheese in there, it forms a cheese sauce, add your pasta, baby, and then you just layer it up in a baking dish and make sure you put some cheese on top. Stick it in the oven so that cheese can melt while we work on our cornbread. And baby, y'all already know it's jiffy. All we need is some eggs, a little milk, baby, mix it up real good, put you some honey in there if you fancy like that. And in about 20 minutes, the cornbread gonna be done. We were supposed to have deviled eggs, y'all, but I broke half the egg. So instead, we just gonna go ahead and plate it up. We're gonna start with that steak and rice, extra gravy. Get you some of them collard greens and a scoop of them candy yams. Don't forget that macaroni and cheese with a thick slice of that cornbread. Stick a fork in it and call that man and them kids and tell them to come eat because dinner is served. Bye, y'all.